Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money and Markets. It's time for your weekly marijuana market update. Again, thank you to everyone who watches our videos each and every week. I know the market's up and down and it can be a little rough go, but just know that Adam, Charles, and I have got your back. We're going to help you right through that and still make sure you profit on your portfolio. Now, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and get notified each and every time we post a new video. I'd also encourage you to check out moneyandmarkets.com. This is our flagship. On the website, you can search our proprietary stock power rating system and get ratings of thousands of stocks. You'll see a breakdown of fundamental and technical ratings, which make up the overall stock rating. Just go to moneyandmarkets.com, and in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a search box. You can type in any ticker or company there. You're going to see, and then when you plug that in, you're going to see the stock's ranking, a stock chart, fundamental data, any analysis we publish, and it's all right there at your fingertips. And then from there, you can also build your own watch list and track stock performance, and you can do all that on the site for free. Now, in today's marijuana market update, I want to update you on some recent legalization measures in Congress, and then I'm going to share with you the top 5 value stocks according to my cannabis power stock rating system. Now, we've all been here before. In November of 2021, we saw a flurry of action in Washington, D.C. related to cannabis legalization. We had Republican Nancy Mace of South Carolina filing a bill to federally legalize and tax cannabis. Democrat Brian Schatz and independent Senator Bernie Sanders filed an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act that federally legalized medical marijuana for military veterans. And then Senate Democrat leadership said that, quote, it was long past time to end federal prohibition on marijuana, end quote. Now, all those actions had 2 things in common, just 2. One, they all pushed broader cannabis market stronger and in the first weeks of November. And then 2, which is probably the most discerning, is they all went absolutely nowhere in terms of actually ending federal prohibition. Now, last week, by a roll call vote of 220 to 204, mostly down party lines, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, or the MORE Act. On Monday, the bill was officially sent to the U.S. Senate, read, and then referred to the Senate Finance Committee, which is where it would typically go. Now, for the second time, the MORE Act clears the House and faces an uncertain future in the Senate. And as things stand, I project this bill is going to languish in committee for a while and may not even get a vote on the full Senate floor anytime soon. So it's basically the same song, and it's the second verse. But cannabis stocks did respond nicely to the news of the MORE Act passing out of the House. In the last 12 months, cannabis stocks have dropped about 47%, according to the Money and Markets Cannabis Index. But after reaching a 52-week low on March 14th, the stocks have rallied slightly, moving up about 8.8%. And on Monday, following the passage of the MORE Act in the House, large multi-state operators saw their stock price jump nicely. Scott's Miracle-Gro, which trades under the ticker SMG, went up about 1.26%. Canopy Growth Corporation, which is CGC, was up 5.43%. Aurora Cannabis Incorporated, or ACB, was up 4.81%. And General Cannabis Corporation, or CANN, moved up 3.26%. Cannabis stocks have had a nice run when Congress announces it's looking at the MORE Act, and they did it again. And they maintained that run on the final passage of the bill and sending it over to the Senate on Monday. But you have to exercise some caution here because the cannabis market is one that loves to trade on headlines, which is never really a good idea if you're a trader. The fact of the matter is the MORE Act getting out of committee, let alone passing the full Senate, is an extremely slim prospect. So it's likely that once again, the reality is going to set in with investors and we could see stock prices get knocked back down again. Let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic here, but Congress has failed the market so many times before, and it's kind of getting shell shock if you're a cannabis investor. You like to see it, you hope it happens, but then at the end of the day, it's probably not going to because we're dealing with Washington, we're dealing with politics, and we're dealing with a much broader thing here instead of just the broad-based idea of legalizing cannabis because, well, you should. Now, I've been asked by several people, both in email and on our YouTube channel, to talk about cannabis stocks with good value. I get a lot of questions about, can you tell me about cannabis stocks that have very good value? Well, my cannabis power rating system does exactly that. Value is actually one of the metrics I use to determine the overall score of a stock. And you can look at the other metrics that we use in our proprietary stock power rating system to figure out why. We use volatility there. But like cryptocurrency, the cannabis market is extremely volatile. Cannabis investors know this, or you should at least expect it. Then their size. The gap between large cannabis companies and small ones is pretty wide, especially when you're dealing with a very small universe of stocks on the market that deal strictly in cannabis. Then there's growth. Cannabis companies do experience sales growth, to be sure, but their earnings per share growth can be another story. And then you have quality. Return on assets, equity, and investment for cannabis companies are notoriously low. Most are actually in negative territory. So I factor all of those out. And that just leaves us with momentum and with value. Momentum is a staple metric that we use because we follow the principle of buying high and selling higher. It's very easy to buy on a dip. The only problem is you never really know when that dip is going to end. Whereas if you buy a stock that is already showing an uptrend or showing momentum upwards, then there's a much better chance you're going to see profits grow from your initial buy-in price. If you're buying on a dip, you may see the price go down even more before you finally see that up, and it's going to take you a lot longer to even recoup your initial investment. Whereas with a momentum trade, you're already going to be looking at the prospect, a strong prospect for gains right off the bat. So it only makes sense to have stock price momentum as a factor we use to analyze cannabis stocks. Then there's value. Now, examining price to ratios like sales, earnings, cash flow, and book value, it makes sense because we can get an accurate picture of what kind of value cannabis stock has. The higher the price to metrics compared to similar stocks, the most likely we are to kind of stay away from it because the higher value, a higher valuation doesn't necessarily make it a very good investment idea, especially in cannabis when volatility is so high. So you asked for it. Here's the top 5 cannabis. I'm holding my pen. My top 5 cannabis stocks according to my cannabis power rating system. Now, some of these may look familiar as I share the top 5 overall cannabis stocks in last week's update. You have Fire and Flower Holdings Corporation, or FFLWF, Sol Global Investments Corporation, or SOLCF, and Tilt Holdings, which is TLLTF, that were also on that list from last week. The new ones are Mentor Capital Incorporated, which is MNTR. It's a private equity firm that specializes in emerging growth investments. It focuses on medical, adult use, and even social use cannabis companies, but only invests in companies that actually have earnings, and those earnings have to be positive. So MNTR right now trades with a price to sales ratio of 0.21 compared to its peer average of 4.87. Now, its peer average aren't necessarily cannabis stocks. They're more private equity investment firms. It's also MNTR also has a price to book value ratio of 0.56 compared to its peer average of 4.62. So by comparison, it shows extreme undervaluation for the stock. And then you have Emerald Health Therapeutics Incorporated, which trades over the counter, EMHTF. It's a cannabis company out of Canada that specializes in medical cannabis. It distributes primarily in Canada, but also does export some of its product to Europe. The stock trades at a price to sales ratio of 1.23 and a price to book ratio of 0.27. So like MNTR, the ratios show a very undervalued weight on EMHTF. But the stock that stands out the most to me is Tilt Holdings. I talked about this last week. I'll talk about it again this week. It's an Arizona-based company that sells various products and services to the cannabis industry, and it sells those products in the U.S., Canada, Israel, Mexico, South America, and the European Union. So basically, globally. The company focuses on greenhouse cultivation of cannabis and CO2 extraction, as well as it also has software that can be used for shipping and receiving operations or broader logistics operations. So shipping cannabis from one place to another, it's not necessarily as simple as just printing out a mailing label. Companies want to track where they go, want to track what they're selling. And this company, Tilt Holdings, actually provides software that allows smaller operations to do just that. Now, the stock has been volatile in the last 12 months, dipping as low as 11 cents per share to a high of 68 cents per share in a very short time. For the year, however, TLLTF is up 44%, and its current price remains slightly above its 50-day moving average. That 50-day moving average is close to crossing over the 100-day moving average, setting up the potential golden cross. Now, what this basically means, it's not necessarily set in stone, but when you reach a golden cross, when your 50-day moving average moves over top of your 100-day moving average and becomes higher, then investors look at that as a possible breakout on the horizon. So we could see that happening if TLLTF continues to push higher and its 50-day moving average breaks that 100-day mark. On the value side, TLLTF trades with a price to sales ratio of 0.51 and a price to book ratio of 0.45, both of which are very good. And it makes it a very good value-based cannabis stock. Now, going outside of our power metrics, however, if I look at other things, not just those metrics, but I do look at other things, TLLTF has a 1-year annual earnings per share growth rate of 51.4%. Its annual sales growth rate is 28%. Not necessarily the strongest, but it's positive, and we'll take that for a cannabis company. It does have good growth potential. I see a lot of strength in this stock, but I want to see it trend a little more upward before I would start investing. Right now, I see some sideways price action, but a more defined uptrend could put us right in that buy high, sell higher area that we like to be in and make this stock a solid buy. So that's all for me this week. If you do have a question about a cannabis stock or the broader market, you can email me. The email address you can reach me at is feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. You can also comment down below here on our YouTube channel. Send us a question or anything like that, and we use it. We're going to set you up with some free Money and Markets gear. We've got t-shirts, we've got hats, we've got sweatshirts, we've got all sorts of great stuff. The boss is continuing working on getting even more stuff in, and we'll send it your way if you send us a question, and we'll use it. Don't forget about the great content we have on our YouTube channel. It is the best investment insight, and it is all yours for free. Follow me on Twitter. I'll give you even more insights, not just into the cannabis market, but the broader market. I like sports as well. Used to be a sports reporter, so it kind of makes sense. You can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @InvestWithMattC. That's InvestWithMattC on Twitter. Thank you to everyone who watches our videos each and every week. Adam, Charles, and I, our entire team, we do it because we want to bring you the best insights, not just into cannabis, but investing and the economy, and make sure you are propped up and have all the right information to be profitable in your investment experience. Check out moneyandmarkets.com each and every day. We provide you with safe, sound, smart, simple, profitable investment information, all for your portfolio. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money and Markets, and your host of the Marijuana Market Update. Until next time, everyone, safe trading.